Spencer, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for the audience, Spencer, you're a husband, you're a father, a son, a brother, a real estate investor, a serial entrepreneur, a restaurateur, a thrill seeker, a man of God,
All right.
and a good guy.
All right, thank you.
What did I miss?
I don't think you missed anything. You probably added a few extra too. You gave me extra credit. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, you're a great guy. Let's start at the beginning, Spence, so the audience can get to know you. Where were you born?
I was actually born in Arizona. I'm a fifth generation Arizona native, so that's really hard to find in Arizona. And basically, I was born, I'm from Snowflake, Arizona, but there's no hospitals in Snowflake, so my mom and dad had to drive probably 30 to 40 minutes away to the hospital in Shiloh, Arizona. Mm-hmm. So I was actually born in Shiloh, Arizona, but I'm from Snowflake.
Interesting. What brought you to the Valley then? When did you move down here?
I basically, what I like to tell people, grew up on the pig farm. My dad was a pig farmer. And grew up there until I was 14. My parents actually got divorced when I was 14. And that's when we moved to the Valley. They both moved all of us to the Valley.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Most of our audience is going to be real estate investors. So tell the audience, what was your first experience with real estate?
So my first experience as in real estate, like you said, as a career, actually started in this building across the parking lot. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can see the building through the cameras or through the window, but that's where it started, and it was in 2005. And my uncle, Tom Caldwell, he had a real estate company. And it was primarily a property management company, but they had already started a whole bunch of other things like acquisitions and inspections and warranties and mortgage and everything else. I mean, so they started on this build-up in 2005. And I don't know, I'm probably answering a few more questions that you probably have, so I'll just go into it if that's okay.
Yeah.
So this was in 2005, and that's where I started real estate, as my uncle Tom Caldwell's firm. And he actually had a guy named Marshall Reddick who reached out to him and wanted him to help facilitate to buy houses. So Marshall Reddick calls my uncle Tom Caldwell, and Tom actually, from what I understand it, didn't know to take this call even serious, because this guy was like, hey, I'm going to come to Arizona and buy thousands of houses. And my uncle Tom was like, what the heck? Really? Are you serious? And I think he was like, kind of wanted to dismiss this call, and he didn't. So anyways, this group from California, Marshall Reddick was like, unfortunately not living now from what I understand, but he was like a professor that went and taught real estate up and down the coast in California to investors, I think in colleges also, and brought a lot of investors over to from California to Arizona to buy houses. And you might have that question in there, but I'd like to back up, like even before that, like how I actually got into real estate. I kind of jumped the gun there. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah. Why did you choose? Because it was my understanding you were choosing between that and medical, right?
Yeah. So I had 3 or 4 jobs, just random jobs all through college. Mm-hmm. And I got married pretty quick after 21 years old and had a kid 2 years later. And I was paying for myself all for college. I didn't have a scholarship, whatever. So I went to college for 5 years, had 120 credit hours of college, worked 3-4 jobs. One of the jobs was I actually repoed instruments from kids. Isn't that sad? Now we're repoing instruments now we're repoing houses from people. So I went from instruments to houses and foreclosures that we might get into. So anyway, so I worked, all through college to have no debt, married with a kid, and I didn't really have direction. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted a career to support my habits and to provide a good living for my family. So what it came down to was I had a cousin, a relative, get home from dental school, and I want to say $300,000 worth of debt. Maybe it was $200,000. Inflation changes stuff, but he came home with a lot of debt, and I was like, hey, I don't want to go into debt because I've got school paid for, and we're gonna do this. So I was studying to be a dentist, so I was gonna go to dental school, and I was doing that because, like I said, I didn't have too much direction, but I had friends doing that. It just seemed like a cool thing to do. Mm-hmm. So I actually took the DAT, the DAT, to get into dental school, and I was basically on my way out to dental school, and had that cousin come home with all that debt from dental school, and I was like, oh man, I don't want to just go into debt $200,000. I'm gonna go work for a summer. You know, you hear these summer dudes like pest control dudes or like alarm system dudes that go and make 50, 60, $100,000 in one summer. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna get a crazy job and go work and make a bunch of money and get it all paid off, or get some of dental school paid for before I go in. And my uncle was nice enough to let me go work at his real estate business instead of a summer job, which I could appreciate. I did actually do some summer sales here locally for a pest control company, Orkin. Actually, the summer before, just one of my 3 or 4 jobs. But
Yeah.
so, and it was in 2005, and the storm was just perfect for real estate. If you don't, if you kind of understand what was happening in 2005. So that's kind of how I got into real estate.
Yeah.
Well, you
Yeah.
may not have become a dentist, but you definitely have the best teeth in the wholesale business.
Yeah.
Look at those pearly whites.
I don't know, man. I need some whitening. I haven't done that for a while, or ever. So,
Putting us both to shame. What about your first personal real estate transaction? When did you acquire your first investment property?
so this storm, like I said, was crazy in 2005. My first property is basically, we were selling hundreds and hundreds of houses from people from California. So naturally, I'm selling all these rentals. They weren't flips, they were just rentals. So naturally, I'm like, I better pick up some of these rentals, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think within the first year or two, I bought like 10 rentals. And back then, they would give anyone and everyone any type of loan. I mean, was it like stated income? You basically just tell the bank what you're making, and they don't even draw like financial docs or jobs stuff for W-2. And that was part of the financial crisis and that we can go over later. But so I all of a sudden I realized I had 10 rentals and just loved it. Yeah.
And then what happened during the great financial crisis?
You had 2005 and you had this run up from 2005 to basically 2007, 8. Mm-hmm. And it was in 2009 when I went down to the foreclosure steps and started helping clients buy foreclosures. And I'd say 10, 11, 12 were like really the biggest years. Probably 2012 as far as like cleaning up the foreclosures and just the financial mess. So your question was like, what happened like with the financial crisis? So everyone and anyone, I mean, I was a millionaire at 25 years old. On paper, my net worth on those 10 houses was $1 million because I basically probably bought it for 200 and they're worth 300, right?
Yeah.
And then and I didn't sell, which I probably should have, and like nest egged them. But I'm in the business, and I'm in the business to sell rentals, and I'm gonna keep rentals more than sell them. So the economy falls, and I literally lost every single one of those first little tranche of rentals that I bought because the economy fell, and those rentals at foreclosure sale were like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. They were worth once like $300,000. Now they're worth like $70,000, $80,000. And like, who's going to keep a rental? So I actually just lost them all.
Yeah. So you bought in 2005. You were up probably 20, 30%.
Right.
Maybe even more because that's how much they were appreciating at that
right.
time. You had did you have adjustable rate mortgages or were you locked in on mortgages?
No, I'm pretty sure they're like a 3 to 5 year arm for sure. I would say, yeah.
So yeah, rates were going up, so that means your payments were going up. Meanwhile, foreclosures were happening in the background, so the equity you thought you had evaporated overnight, basically. So you were upside down on this home, making a mortgage payment. A lot of times you were buying these properties with negative cash flow, right, where the rents were not covering the mortgages, but it was in the hopes of appreciation, right?
Yeah, they were negative cash flow for sure. Like I would say $200-$300 each, which probably equals more like $500 after taxes and expenses and management. So yeah, they're all negative cash flow.
Yeah, so in a quickly appreciating market, that strategy makes sense. But
right.
Yeah, for anybody that was around during that time, it changed very quickly. Like 05, 06 was hot. There was lotteries for homes back then.
Yeah.
Right? Like there were people in line to get homes. And
there was lotteries for homes. It was funny you say that because when I first got into it, we were doing like used, pre-owned whatever houses. We couldn't do new builds because the new builders wouldn't let investors in there to buy because the investors would go in and buy 100, 150 houses and then the development would just have no integrity whatsoever because it's just full of renters and no care of ownership type. So we would wake up at 4:35 in the morning and I would go and actually fax off like 100 offers to all these real estate agents and hope to get 1 or 2 houses to sell to these investors. Then the builders, as the economy started to fall, it started to loosen up. Then we can get in there, and then they kicked us out. They said only 5 or 10 investors per 100. So it was just kind of weird how that worked.
Yeah, so from '06 to 2011, prices in the valley dropped 50% basically, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
2011 was the bottom of the market, and your story is a perfect corollary to the other investors that were, and personal homeowners that were in Phoenix at that time. So walk us through your decision to foreclose on the properties. Like how was that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because you own them and you got the loan on them, you want to keep them, but your negative cash flow in the house that you bought, for $200,000 that was worth $300,000 is now $80,000. It just financially does not make sense to keep that house. And I think that's what caused a lot of the foreclosures in the Arizona market was wow. I mean, my loan's $200,000 and this house is worth $80,000. Like, why would I keep that?
Yeah. So during all of this, you were working for your uncle, but then right at the end of it, you made the brave decision to go out on your own. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, just like I said, across the parking lot, I mean, there had to be as many as, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 employees. I mean, with all these bustling real estate companies and just that push up of the economy to buy all those houses. I mean, everyone and anyone was becoming in real estate millionaires overnight. It was just absolutely crazy, and everyone's becoming super wealthy. And as soon as the economy crashed, any type of real estate company that's doing really, really well, basically the doors opened and the employees were like ants. If you were a real estate agent in 2005 and 6, 7, you weren't anymore. You're going back to teaching school, or you're going back to a day job that you weren't making too much money overnight at, right? So just like everyone made so much money, equity in their house overnight, so were people working in real estate. So, I mean, unfortunately, that business, to sustain, you couldn't be working for someone. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur in a down market, you better figure out how to work for yourself and to make it happen for yourself rather than working for someone. Because the person that you're probably working for doesn't probably have enough money to feed you and their family also. So, unfortunately, he walked out the doors, and my brother actually started a Gentry that we're sitting in today, Gentry Real Estate. My brother started that, and we just went to work. I think the first office was like in a garage. So it's like a garage band or a garage brokerage, right? So it's pretty cool. And we still have Gentry today. And, we just kind of continued from there.
So it started as a traditional real estate brokerage.
Right.
And it continues on to this day as that. But
right. And we didn't have really much. I mean, I remember probably a solid year where I was like so desperate to just figure out anything to make money, and I actually did multi-level marketing. I did this company called Liberty League just to survive and to figure out like what's going on, like what's my next play. I still was wanting to do real estate and doing my best to do real estate, but everyone was like, how am I going to be making money? Like waking up, like how are we going to do this? And fortunately, that's when foreclosures really started to hit.
Yeah.
So
tell me about that light bulb moment. Like, I think I've heard this story before about, tell the audience, like, how did you figure out about foreclosures and get into that?
Yeah, so luckily, the neighborhood I lived in, there's a great group of guys that like hit the road on their bikes or running or whatever, and so you figure out a lot of things on an hour or 2 hour bike ride or running when you don't have your phone, and it's just a bunch of buddies trying to figure out life. And so within that group, there were several of the guys that were actually builders who just fell flat on their face also in the economy crisis. And these builders fell because they can't build houses anymore because no one's buying houses. And so I actually had one of my friends, his name was Jim Adcox. We were riding and he was literally next to me. He's like, hey, I hear foreclosures are starting to pick up and they're selling like quite a bit down at the courthouse steps. And more than likely, they're going to be selling, a lot more of these because it's just getting worse and worse. And so he basically said, hey, if you don't go down there, I'm going to. And I'm like, oh, no.
I'll go.
I'll go. So I literally went down there, and it was the craziest thing to me, just like people buying these houses cash on the courthouse steps. And that was my next love in real estate, was foreclosures. And then I sat down there for several months and figured out a system to help investors buy 10 to 15 houses a day for like 2 years straight to clean up this foreclosure mess.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just an absolute huge blessing from like feeling like I'm a millionaire at 25 to falling on my face to like rebuilding my real estate portfolio and empire. So it was just such a huge blessing to have those foreclosures.
Yeah, that was an amazing time to witness that. Walk the audience through like the pressure involved in making 15 investment purchase decisions per day on the fly. Like, what sort of homework did you have to do in the background? And how did you make sure investors got good properties out of that?
Oh man, that's actually a really good question. You guys know one of our investors, Allie.
Yeah.
She actually she was down there bidding herself and bought the wrong property. There's 2 houses on University going, and she bought one on University and thought it was the other one. So I mean, and when people buy houses at auction, they have to put down $10,000 non-refundable. Mm-hmm. So there are investors that would be buying properties and they're not buying the right thing. So there's a lot of mistakes. But that being said, I think that particular property, a friend, they didn't want it, and I had a friend ended up buying it and sitting on it and making like $100,000 off of a year later, even though it was a mistake. So it's actually pretty hard to make a mistake when you're buying houses for pennies on the dollar. I mean, Maryvale houses that are now 300 plus, those things were as low as $20,000, $30,000, and $60,000 for a long while. So your question was, how did I keep my head straight just helping buy 10 to 15 houses a day? Obviously it's just not me. I had a great supporting staff, a staff member, Chuck, that was doing the research to collect all the data. Chuck Willman, remember him?
Yeah, so he was doing title searches, making sure there weren't...
He was just collecting the data, like spending all afternoon after auctions, 4, 5, 6 hours, like collecting the data of houses that are today that are going to auction tomorrow. And we still have that system, right?
So you have 1 day's notice, basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you can pull up like all the lates and this and that, but for the most part, you just don't have that much notice. And so Chuck would collect the data, and then we just had so many other staff members. But to buy 10 houses, 15 houses, and we're putting it down a $10,000 non-refundable check. So, I mean, we're throwing down $100,000, $150,000 a day. And then likewise, those properties have to get paid to the trustee by 5 o'clock the next business day. And so if we're buying these houses, just call them, you'd have $1 million worth, $150,000 worth of $10,000 checks, and then I'd have $1 million come into the account, and then we'd run to the bank and get cashier's check and go to the trustees to pay for these. And so, I mean, it's a big system, but I loved it and thrived on it. So, yeah.
I think that was the time when I met you too, and we were working together building what eventually became RentVest, property management company, and we were acquiring properties as long-term rentals, right?
Right.
And part of that process involved comping the homes, getting rental comps put together, getting the drive reports put together. So how did you organize all of that?
When I had the foreclosure business and the property management company, like we still have today, like naturally you're going to get investors that want rentals. And so it's just a natural flow of people that want rentals. So, I mean, it's not just me. I mean, you guys provide a lot of great comps and that type of stuff. So
talk to us about the logistics of the drives. How did you organize all of the drive reports to know that you were buying a property that wasn't a burned down mess?
Yeah. So basically we have to go out there, and I would have to say, actually, like, in the craziness of it, we weren't driving every single property. There just wasn't time.
You were taking the risk.
Yeah, just taking the risk. Yeah. But now, I mean, there's less properties going to auction.
Yep.
We're lucky to get a few a week right now.
Yeah.
And we have time to go drive by them. But in the thick of it, we actually weren't doing drives on all the properties. Yeah. Like before, like the warm up a little bit we were, but in the thick of it, when there's 200 houses on the auction,
you just can't hit them all.
You can't hit them all. It's just impossible to hit them all when you got 100 houses to hit. So, but we still do drive reports for auctions right now, and we want to see physically what we're buying. And some of these houses are burnt down. And you don't know it until you show up and take pictures the day of. Yeah. So you got to make sure you know what you're buying. Yeah. Yeah.
So since foreclosures have slowed down significantly, what does your day-to-day look like now? Like, what are you focused on?
Yeah. So, I've got a lot of ventures, like you said, and a lot of different titles, but I like to say, hey, my day job is real estate, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just fulfill my day helping investors still buy discounted inventory through wholesale or auction. And so we do a lot of wholesaling, of connecting the dots, of helping people dispo their houses and helping investors buy their houses. In fact, since we've been sitting here, I've got 30 text messages just since we're talking, and every single one of those are investors asking about properties like access, is this one still available, that type of stuff. So, yeah.
So this is still good.
Yeah, exactly.
Linking buyers and sellers.
Yeah,
That's the core of your business.
It.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Nice. What do you think makes a great wholesaler? Like, how have you been able to stay successful at it for 15 years?
Yeah, I think it's just communication. You've got to be on top of communication. You got to respond immediately to people and just deliver. So you just really got to stay on top of it.
It's no wonder you've been so successful. Our joke has always been that you respond to text messages before we actually send them to you. Like there's somehow you're like that. It's instantaneous.
Yeah, that might be the case. So
and you're still obviously an active investor yourself. Like, what does your buy box look like today? What are you looking for in your?
Yeah, so I mean, it's almost like a mood. Did you feel like picking something up to flip today or to buy a rental? So to me it's almost like a mood, which kind of seems weird, but. I always like to keep, several properties in the pipeline flipping, and I like rentals. I got several rentals, but it's just the warm and fuzzy. Like, do I feel good about it, and do I want to make this happen? And naturally with so much inventory coming to me through, I see hundreds and hundreds of houses every single week on the discount level that are available, and naturally I'm gonna be like, hey, this one's cool. I want this house, and so. I'll pick up something here and there, yeah.
As a flipper, like what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's going to step in and flip their first home?
Keep your day job. Keep the cash flow coming in. That's why we're in real estate, is because we want to create cash flow and get rid of our day job. But until you sustained that, but you've got to spend time. Like everyone's like, hey, what's the success of like picking up a house at auction? I'm like, spend 5 minutes a day. Look at the list. Like. Yeah. Just spend the time, like dig in. So for someone to be successful flipping houses, they need to spend the time. And there's so many hours before your day job and after your day job in the day. Like, just be productive.
Yeah, there's so many resources you have to have, right? If you're going to go in and flip a property, you have to have a trusted network of vendors that you can rely on, unless you're going to go in and do all the work yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what do you recommend for people that are just getting started? Like, how do you go about the flip? How do you find good quality vendors?
To find a good quality flip, number one is you just need to sign up for my Twitter. I put out properties live. Just put in Twitter, Spencer Caldwell, and I put out these properties live as they hit. So that's the best way, is to buy properties off my Twitter, or make sure you subscribe to my email list and get on the email list and get those sent to you. And so you got to have the inventory and a valid resource for the inventory. And then number two is, like you said, vendors or like contractors. You've got to have someone that you trust to rehab the property. So, great question.
And where does property management come into play? Like, obviously, as you've been wholesaling, you've been in property management as well and have side businesses. Like, where do you see the partnership with property management coming into play?
Yeah, so you've got to have, if you are an investor and you're looking to buy a rental, especially for me, you better be using Home Ladder. I mean, that is the company to use for property management. You've got to have someone that you trust, that's boots on the ground, not some big company that's based out of another state that's doing management in Arizona. Like have eyes and ears here. And Home Ladder, that's it. That's what you need.
Yeah, that's generally what we find, is like we see these folks that are out doing things on their own, right, and they think of property management as being an expense to them, when in reality they come over and we're able to deliver the service and maintenance, right? That's generally where we're going to save folks the most money. And so they see the cost savings they get from maintenance, which is paying for the property management services. Right. So like we already have these relationships queued up. Yeah,
let there be no mistake. If you are a real estate investor and if you are managing your own properties, you're not a smart person. I'm sorry. I love you, but you're not smart, because your brain power is used so much more effectively to go buy another rental and to strategize and to do self-development and take action rather than managing your properties. Mm-hmm. It is a complete waste of your time. So if you're an investor, make sure that you hire a property manager. And Home Ladder's the best in Arizona. I mean, come on.
I'll agree with that.
That's good advice. That's great advice. All right, I think we've bored our audience enough with wholesaling and property management. Some
Yeah.
fun stuff, like your son Ethan just got back from 2 years on a mission.
Yeah.
He's in the office with you now, learning the
Yeah.
day-to-day. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going great. So basically, when you're raising kids, you're really just nervous, like how are they going to find their way, what jobs are they going to get, and quite honestly, like no one wants to do real estate. Period. Like they want the benefits and the blessings and they want the results of doing real estate.
Yeah.
But no one wants to do real estate or get into real estate.
Work, yeah.
They don't want to put it in. So I felt like I probably ruined all my kids because my job of real estate is just so demanding, and all my businesses. I'm just a busy guy, and that's what you just want your kids to get out of your house like unscathed and unharmed, like as a father. You just want to do your best. So I was happy to hear that Ethan actually, got off his mission and wanted to do real estate. So yeah, he's in the office learning real estate. Should have his license here in the next few weeks, and it means I didn't ruin him raising him in real estate. I mean, he was raised with a crazy entrepreneur dad that is 100% involved in businesses and doing his best to be involved with family too. So
Have you had any work arguments yet?
oh no, I haven't. So
No.
I won't go there.
I honestly say, I don't think you've ruined him. I admire you. I'm a recent father myself. I got a
Yeah.
10-month-old boy at home, and I look up to you a lot. And seeing how present of a father you are and how much your son obviously respects you, the fact that he's willing to learn from you. Like, most sons want to get as far away from their dads as possible.
Yeah.
Well, so the fact that he's still here is a great sign.
Yeah, that's good.
Spence, you're also a restaurateur, which is a very high-stress business.
Yeah.
What's that experience been like? Why did you decide to add that to your plate?
So the family business was obviously pig farming. That's how I grew up, and that's what I wanted to do when I was a dad. I wanted to be a pig farmer like my dad. Love pigs. I love farming. It's just in my DNA. But obviously things changed. We moved to the city at 14 years old. My dad only knew how to do one other thing besides pig farming. That was how to smoke pigs. And so he went from raising pigs and selling them off to be killed to smoking. So it's just kind of interesting. But that being said, he started a family restaurant, and of course I worked there, and worked there as a teenager and into my adult years, and that's was one of my jobs through college. Also, I got married, and my wife worked there, and my dad eventually just kind of had enough of it. It was actually a little restaurant in Mesa called Waldo's Barbecue. Started in the '90s, and he sold it I think 12, 13 years ago, and basically retired and thought he was done. And then he went to Texas, and he says he had a come to Jesus moment when he tasted what true brisket tastes like, and he said, I've got to bring this to Arizona and change lives in Arizona through my brisket. And so he had this dream, and my story it might be different than his. Is he before that come to Jesus moment? He came to me out of retirement. Like he was in here like saying, hey, what can I do for you? Like, do you got a job for me?
I'm bored.
Yeah, I'm like, I like you too much to work with you, Dad. And go do it again. Go start another restaurant. So he went and just started pounding the pavement and was determined to, deliver this true Texas brisket to Arizona. And he literally knocked on a door, which I would call, similar to what we're doing with distressed properties, knocking on doors, and asked the guy if he's selling his property, and he's like, you know what, you're in luck. We're actually listing it in the next few days. Here's my realtor's number, and I actually knew who the realtor is, and I called the realtor and said, hey, we're ready to buy this, and he's like, okay, this is what we're selling it for, and literally we bought it within that week. And that's what's known. It was a single-family, 1,500 square foot single-family house that's known as Caldwell County Barbecue in Gilbert, which is mostly known throughout Arizona as the best barbecue in Arizona. So
I'll attest to that.
Yeah. So luckily, my dad was nice enough, or I was nice enough to go on do this venture together, and so that's how we got into it, and it's great.
Been a wild ride, growing, successful. You're enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely love it. I mean, it's, the Caldwell's love language is food. And so we love to share our love language with others. And there's nothing better than seeing a smile on someone's face after they take a bite of a taco or this brisket. So
It's a good thing you're an avid runner and mountain biker too, huh?
yeah, and past 40, so I got to watch it. But we love to eat. Yeah.
All right, last question. Let's circle back to real estate.
Okay.
So there's a lot of predictions out there of what 2024 is going to look like.
Right.
With all of your experience seeing the ups and downs, what is 2024 going to be?
2024 is just going to be a reflection of 2023, with the difference of interest rates coming down a little bit and stabilizing around the 6 mark is my prediction. And I feel like it's just going to be a stable, small uptick of appreciation, just growth market. So, we have demand that is down, and we have listings that are down. So it's just a weird economy going on in real estate, but it's really pretty healthy for the most part and stable. And that's just what we can ask. And it's just not going to change much. We're in an election year, and so similar to like most businesses in the stock market and real estate, it's just going to is what it is, and it's going to exist. And so so the question is how can I make the most of it, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's the question. How can I go make the most of it? And that's what we're doing every day. So
Perfect. Great answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Spence, thanks for joining us for
Cool.
Home Ladder's first podcast.
Right on.
Great.
Thanks for having me as a guest.
Yeah, thank
of course.
Make it
Appreciate
a great day.
Make it a great day. Thank you.